What is up, Combo Nation? This is Grown B. I have Batman, 123 Rock, and Blazed Up with me today, and we're going to be talking about something we really haven't dived into a whole lot on this channel, but now as everyone's kind of catching up on some of the DC shows, we've decided to take a moment to talk about what we feel like are the most impactful and overall best developed side characters across the Arrowverse. I am going to do my absolute best to talk about like some of the supporting characters that doesn't spoil anything for them because I'm for the most part caught up on like every DC TV show. But I'm interested in seeing what these guys have to say about a universe that has been really important and really close to me for the past several years. So, Jay, I know that you've been walking down so many episodes and seasons of Arrowverse shows. So I'm excited to see who's the first kind of support or side character that you wanted to bring up to talk about for us.
Um, so I have a favorite character, but the character I want to talk about is Cisco Ramon. My favorite character though is John Diggle. But if you ask me who's the most like impactful or the most developed character in the Arrowverse, I would definitely say it would be Cisco Ramon. As to why, we can delve into that a little bit later because I
Mm-hmm.
know we're trying to do the introduction on that. I will say I'm on season 5 of Arrow, season 3 of Flash, season 2 Supergirl. I don't believe Doom Patrol's in the Arrowverse, is it? Or is it confirmed to be?
So it's not in the quote unquote Arrowverse, but it is connected to the quote unquote DC connected universe.
Oh, okay. Well, if that's the case, I have one for Doom Patrol 2. We'll save that for later then.
Okay.
Because I just didn't know if those are considered connected. And then I believe I'm on season 2 of every other show. So that's where I'm at currently. Right now, I'm watching season 3 of Flash, and you know what? Next.
Batman, any characters that you wanted to kind of bring up just real quick before we start to kind of do the deep dive?
I know he's a villain, but Slade Wilson.
Okay,
I
so are we considering because here's the thing, I know at some point we're gonna do a video that is probably gonna be best villains. Do we want to save our villains for the best villains one that we'll probably eventually do and then just kind of focus on other types of characters for this video? Do y'all want to do that?
We could do it, but I do know that a lot of the villains have a key role in the development of these characters we're about to talk about.
Mm-hmm.
So it's going to be hard to like not mention them, but as far as having a video separate for them, I would love to have a separate one for it too.
Sure. Okay, so let's do this. As far as the like the big bads, like the big villains, let's kind of do overviews of them as far as how they kind of impact the main characters. But let's save the deep dive for something that we'll probably do in the future. Um, I do want to kind of bring up a character that I feel like people don't really talk about a whole lot in the Arrowverse. And as far as his journey, I always had a big appreciation for Roy Harper. Like
Mhm.
his journey from just kind of being that kid that felt like he had nobody to lean on, nobody really cared about him. Then all of a sudden he's in this situation where he has this Mirakuru and he doesn't know what's going on with his body. At the same time, he's kind of like, I mean, like he had so many different dynamics going on with him at the same time. He was effectively on drugs. He was pretty much homeless, falling in love with Thea, trying to redeem himself and become this hero. And so he's looking up to Oliver. And during that time, Oliver was not the Oliver from later seasons. So like he's kind of struggling because Oliver doesn't even really know how to be a great leader, and so that affected Roy Harper a lot too. But just seeing him go from like, I remember when it just seemed like one day I was watching an episode and it seemed like Roy just had his shit together all of a sudden, and I looked back and I'm like, wow, I really see how much this quote unquote year with Oliver and with Thea and with all these other characters has really changed him. So he's definitely one of the biggest, most impactful side characters that I've seen throughout the Arrowverse at this point.
I think just from the point that I'm at with Roy Harper, I would say he's had a very significant growth and one that's a little bit larger than most of your normal growth for characters. Because if you look at his co-star Thea in the show,
Hmm.
she was forced to do a lot of growing too, but she did that growing over the span of a couple of seasons.
Yeah, definitely.
His growth happened in like a little bit of one season itself, and then we don't see him anymore.
Yeah, he does. He does get a lot of growth in probably somewhere around 20 episodes or so. And then they kind of move on for him a little bit, but he stays solid and he doesn't regress, and that's something that I appreciate about him. A lot of characters tend to hit their peak, and then for whatever reason they start to regress as characters, and I've always hated to see that. But Batman, what are your kind of thoughts on Roy Harper as a character?
Yeah, he's a very um well developed character. The actor, Colton Haynes,
Hmm.
does a great job portraying the character. Um, I do agree he has a lot of growth over the years. He's been through a lot of trials and tribulations, and he's been through it, man. And there were times where he wanted to give up
Hmm.
as well, and he kept fighting. He kept fighting, and I really admire that about the character.
Yeah, definitely. Who's somebody y'all want to bring up?
I definitely want to talk about the father figures if we want to for side characters,
Oh
and
yes.
just the role of father figures as a side
Hmm.
character in the
Hmm.
show.
Hmm.
Because if you look at that, the Flash versus Arrow, you have two very drastic differences between those characters. Well, for the Arrow, I would say Quentin Lance is a father figure to Oliver, or you could say Malcolm Merlin is, or you could say well, there's a couple for Oliver, but where Arrow goes, there's just a straight direct. I'm sorry, where Flash goes,
Hmm.
it's Joe West. Every time you look, it's Joe
Yeah.
West. Supergirl, you could say it's not her aunt, but her boss.
Cat
Her
Grant.
boss counts.
So,
Yes, Cat Grant.
oh man, I'm glad you brought that up. Cat Grant, dude, is oh, she's such a good character. That is one of my all-time favorite support characters. I mean, when you can use a character to truly amplify and shed light on what the hero is supposed to be, like if you can really see the reflection of a hero or a protagonist through that support character is doing an absolutely fantastic job. I'm glad that you brought up Cat Grant because it's been so long since I've watched those first couple of seasons that like I forgot how impactful she is in those early stages. She's easily for me now that you brought her up a top three, top four support character definitely.
She stood out to me in the first, I want to say, 2 to 3 episodes. At first, I was like, "Who the heck is this?
Hmm.
And why does she have a bigger ego than a girl that can throw a plane by herself?"
Yeah.
But as the story goes on, and you see just how she transforms Kara Zor-El, and if she allows her to quote unquote have girl power, but more so have a more like a stronger female presence without seeming weak at any point, but giving her the ability to have faults. It's one of those things where they have the ultimately balanced character,
Yeah.
where her faults aren't too like drastic, as I would put it. As far as the number one supporting character that's gone through it that shocked me, Quentin Lance for sure, and that's because of season 4 of Arrow, where
Yeah.
I find out that Damien Dark and him have been working together. That was frustrating for me as a first time viewer of that
Hmm.
show. That was so frustrating and it crushed me.
But
But
see,
his
man,
reason why
yeah,
brought it
yeah,
better.
yeah, yeah, and that's the thing about and what I like about Quentin is that he grew into that role as the father of the Arrow show. because he wasn't always like that. At first he at first he was beefing with Oliver, like
all the
wholeheartedly
time. He
beefing
did
with
not like
Oliver.
him.
He's had periods where he was beefing with Laurel, beefing with Sarah. He didn't like beefing with his own police force. Like he had to grow into who he really ultimately became, and seeing that journey gives me so much more of an appreciation. He's one of the few characters that he is condemn proof. Like you can't condemn him for really anything that he does because they built his story for you to have no choice but to empathize with him. You know,
Because they make the question known. Their question is, what would you do if you lost everything
twice. like,
twice,
like,
and not like hold on to one thing, but everything: your marriage, your kids, your job, your dignity, your role in your community, everything that you hold dear, you lose
yeah, yeah,
twice.
all of it, literally twice. That's crazy. Yeah. Batman, you got any
It's
insight? I just don't want to talk. I just don't want you to not
no, I
have your
got you.
chance. You know what I mean?
Yeah, insight on what? Like what he
Just
said?
in general, man. Like if you want to just take the conversation in another direction, I'm totally fine with that. We're just kind of staying on the general topic of support characters and how they've impacted these storylines over the years.
Question, does Stargirl count since it's on CW now?
Go ahead. Oh
Pat
wait,
Dugan.
wait. Let's hold back on Stargirl because Jay hasn't seen any of Stargirl.
I don't know
Oh
what it
yeah,
Um,
that's a
is.
good point.
but however, I will say that Pat Dugan is a really good support character.
Hmm.
I think you're gonna like him a whole lot, which is why I'm excited for you to get into Stargirl. I think a lot of the elements of all the other characters that you've liked across the Arrowverse are present in Pat Dugan, and so I'm really excited for you to get to that show because that show is, I get it. Like every show's first season, for the most part, is typically the best season. But that show had a really solid first season. And so I'm excited for you to get to that, just whenever you get to it. But just remember the
I've
name.
heard some good things about
Yeah,
it.
Pat Dugan is an absolutely fantastic character. I really appreciate and like that character from start to finish. And the actor who plays him, who I don't know his name, does just an amazing job as him as well.
Um, what about Titans? Is that off? Not okay too.
I know a little bit about Titans. It's on my list, but let's put it this way: as long as you avoid spoilers, we can talk about it because I feel like there are viewers who are caught up with CW, so I want to keep them involved in the conversation. Because season 4 was probably like I don't know, like what 5 years ago for these shows, right?
Yeah, 4 years ago.
So yeah, let's. I mean, it's okay as long as you just don't say like, oh, Mephisto is his father. Aha, I'm fine with
I
it.
think we can talk about support characters without drastically revealing some of the plot points that they go through. But who were you trying to bring up from Titans, Batman? I'm trying to think. To be honest, that's not a very sup- I don't know. It's weird because it's hard for me to kind of break down which one of those characters are quote unquote main characters and which ones are side characters.
That's a good point. I didn't think about that.
I mean, because for the most part, because
Our main
the
characters,
way
yeah.
Titans is set up, Jay is like for every episode, a couple of characters from this Titans group get like really big shine, and so it's hard to say, but just for this,
Kind of like the original Teen Titans that show.
yeah, pretty much just like that. I will say this. I really like the Jason Todd character and the actor that plays him in Titans. That is one of the best performances of a character that I've seen in just in a long time. I got vibes from that character that I was getting from like Slade from season 2 of Arrow. Like where you're just looking at this character and you're seeing him in his most frustrated moments, in his happiest moments, in his saddest moments, and you're like, man, I feel for this dude. and he has that way of just looking into the distance, or when they get those close ups or those medium shots, like you're looking into this dude's eyes and you just feel it. And so I'm really excited to see how they're going to move forward with him. Absolutely. Anybody, anything?
Um,
Um, I didn't want to say anything because I don't want to talk about a character I don't know.
Oh, no, 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 you
I just
good.
only know from the animated series of Jason Todd.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's cool.
I
uh
guess I was gonna bring up a main character. I'm sorry. I didn't.
who are you gonna bring up?
I was gonna bring up Dick Grayson. Um,
Oh yeah, I guess if there was any type of quote unquote main character from that show, that would be him.
yeah, I didn't really think that one through. Trying to think. I like all the HRs, the Harrison Wells. Like
Ah, yes.
literally,
I like two of
Jay just made
them.
HR. And he doesn't like him.
I don't like him. No, he spits on everything that Harrison Wells stands for. He's a
Yeah,
fraud.
yeah. I mean,
Harrison Wells is a lot of things, but at least he's a genius. And then you get a Harrison Wells that's not a genius, and you're like, what? He's a con man. He's just a straight up con man. That's what he is.
but see, once you kind of get away from that, and once you start treating that HR as just a character, don't treat him as like and I know it's hard because that's what that's what the Flash is trying to do. They're trying to treat these wells as like these are the wells. But if you just take a moment to pull him out of that and just evaluate him just as another character on the show without ties to any other wells or whatever, you'll realize how much more he starts to grow on you as that season goes on. But you don't really start to feel that until you start to get like to episode 18, 19, 20 of that particular season. So
He is like the opposite of Big Red, where you know how it tastes really good and it leaves a bad aftertaste sometimes. He is the opposite. He just leaves a bad beginning taste. And I hope you're saying that the aftertaste is going to be good, because right now just kind of spits on everything.
I'm gonna be honest. He's still not one of my favorite. He's probably still my least favorite Wells, but
Yeah, he
he just
is.
grow. He becomes. He has a good journey in that season that I think you will ultimately like.
I think it's hard for me to accept it because Wells is not goofy. Wells doesn't make jokes. Wells doesn't isn't lighthearted. He's not playful. He is serious. He is cold. He is collecting. He's witty, and this man is
None of those
goofy,
things.
goofy, goofy. And you know me. I love goofy
And that
characters.
I was
My main
surprised at that
thing.
too. Yeah, because you really do. You really gravitate towards those kind of just goofy ass characters. I get that.
Exactly, and I'm just sitting here like, what is this? It's like if you went to your doctor and he cracked a joke about, oh, I guess you got cancer. Sucks, dog. I didn't come to you to make a joke. I came to you to get a diagnostics. And you go into this Wells, it's like getting some goofy old doctor that went to TCC instead of Harvard Medical School.
Yeah, that's
I mean, shout
tough.
out to TCC.
TCC's solid. Pretty women there. Let's talk about these two characters together, and I think this should be fun because we all can definitely get a lot of input into this because it's two Flash characters. But I want to talk about them together. Let's talk about the dynamics of Caitlin Snow on the Flash team and Iris on the Flash team.
Oh, it's real simple. Caitlin's useful. Iris is garbage. Here we go.
But see, let me ask you, and Batman, I want you to kind of chime in on this. What do y'all
yeah.
think is just? I mean, what is everyone's biggest issue with Iris as a character? Like, just give like a. Let's try to give our most like objective answers to like what's wrong with this character and how would you try to improve that character, because everybody seems to have a consensus on not liking her. But no one ever really no, people tend to not give real reasons as to why they don't like female characters. They just say, I don't like these female characters, they're annoying. And to be honest, sometimes it comes off as like, I know it's not, but sometimes when I read through YouTube comments, it comes off as like super misogynistic. Like when you go down the comment section and all of a sudden you have 10 straight comments and all they're saying is kill off these characters and all the characters are women. It's like, what the hell? So let's talk about it, and let's also give our insight on how we think that they can improve these characters or improve this character as well.
Grumby,
Yes.
I'm going to say something very controversial, and I am probably going to get absolutely thrashed for it,
Okay.
but I like Iris West. I've always liked her as a
Oh,
character.
you like
I quit.
Iris.
I'm
Yeah.
out of this. Goodbye. I don't want to have a conversation with you. Okay?
Okay,
You
well,
go
no,
back to
no,
where you
this is
came from
good.
with that
This is
logic.
good. This is
Don't
good.
encourage him.
This is good.
I've
It
also
can't. It
seen
can't.
all seasons of The Flash,
It can't just
so
be us
Look here,
agreeing on
dog.
all the same.
3 whole seasons, and you got all the connections, all these newswork connections. You got all the tenacity. You have a father who's a detective. You have a best friend who's a superhero. And the best you can do is put yourself in situations that cause more harm than good. Not one time, not one single time in all 3 seasons of this show has she done anything that's productive. Not one thing. Not one single thing. And even if she did, she takes 2 steps back when she tries to. It's one of those things where it's like, oh, hey, don't do this because I care and protect about you. I'm going to do it anyway. Okay? I'm not going to tell you about this because I know you're going to do something stupid. Well, since you didn't tell me about it, I'm going to do something dumb anyways. You're not winning. You're not winning with Iris West. All you're doing is wasting time. So hopefully in the next, I don't know, 5 or so more seasons, she gets some kind of growth. I don't like repetitiveness. It's not fun to watch. I don't enjoy it.
I understand that. What is it that?
Sorry, I'm
No, no, no,
passionate.
no, no. What is it that you like about Iris's character, Batman?
I don't know. I mean, she's like she's Barry's, flame. She's Barry's flame. She's what keeps him going. Especially when he's like at the lowest point, he wants to give up.
Mm-hmm.
She's always there to pick him back up and get him back on his feet. And I really like that about her character. I like
She probably the reason why he's
her
at his
dynamic.
lowest feet. If you look back at the season,
That's not always the case. I mean, a lot of times Barry is at his lowest because of his own decisions. And I think that's actually a good point because at the end of the day, if the purpose of Iris as a character is supposed to be, I mean, they've said it multiple times that she's his lightning rod. She's what brings him back down to earth. She's what helps him stay grounded. She is what helps him, make better decisions for him as a character. And if that's really what they're designing that character to be, then I don't think that I mean, then you have to say that that character is being successfully written in that sense. Now you may say that she doesn't contribute to, maybe the daily villain that's going on, and maybe you're not particularly interested in her daily life. Maybe she makes dumb decisions, but ultimately, at the end of the day, for what she is written for and the role that she plays in that world and in that universe, she doesn't fail at that. And even when you look at just other mediums for the character Iris West, she was never a Lois Lane. She was never this tough, reporter that was going to go out and get the tough story and put herself in these positions as just this certain type of woman. Now they're trying to kind of push her in that direction, and
Hmm.
and it's cool that they're kind of experimenting with that. But I mean, for what Iris is supposed to be, I think that they're doing an okay job. She is frustrating in a sense.
let's define what she's supposed to be. What actually? Let's break down the character on a whole. Because you know what? Let's have this conversation about Iris West. What is her core qualities. What would you say is makes up the genetic makeup of Iris? Is she supposed to be strong? Is she supposed to be inquisitive by nature? Is she supposed to be consistent? Is she supposed to be confident? What is it that makes Iris West Iris West?
Well, I think Iris for this particular narrative, for her place in the Arrowverse, she is a representation of hope and a representation of optimism. That
Hmm.
no matter what, and really, there's no other character like that across the Arrowverse. Oliver is very pessimistic.
Super.
Like Oliver is very
Yeah.
pessimistic. Thea is gruesomely pessimistic. John, to an extent, is optimistic, but at the same time, he is constantly thinking of this is the worst case scenario that could happen. Oliver, is this really what you want? And so, in a way, that's really pessimistic as well.
What about Felicity?
Felicity is the same is Diggle with a different core personality. She, for the most part, is she gets really pessimistic. Also, I say she's closer to the optimistic end than Diggle is, and I do think that I would say if we were to give her the same type of descriptor that we gave Iris, like I'm giving Iris optimism and hope. I would say that that Felicity is logic and hope. She's far more logical with her approach to her optimism than Iris is. But I think that that works a lot better for their particular dynamics with the people that they are in love with. Because what is Barry's phrase? Becoming the impossible. So logic doesn't really fit with that, and so it makes sense that partnered with this optimism and this hope is kind of this thinking along the lines of things that are really kind of unrealistic in a sense. And I think Iris does that job really well for Barry, and I really think that that's just what her role is.
So, in a team of people who constantly, I mean constantly bring something to the table, her singular role, her only role, is to
Is
be
the amplification of Barry
hopeful.
Allen? Yes.
Hmm.
If that's her singular purpose, cool.
See,
Does she
here's the
do
thing.
that job? Great.
I think you have to think of it
But
that way because that's really what it is. She is not meant to be somebody who's going to develop this device that helps them win, or she's not going to go outsmart one of the enemies. She's not going to go out and fight crime. She's not going to go she doesn't do that. What she does is get Barry to the
Mhm.
level that he needs to be at in order for him to do his job. Because without
Mhm.
Iris, Barry does not perform at maximum capacity. Without Iris, and as a result, none of those people can do their job. I
what
mean,
about when he was talking to that one police girl? Season one, when Barry was when Barry had a crush on Felicity, he was still performing.
there's a difference between I have a crush on a girl that's pretty cute and that I have a
Yeah.
little bit of interest in, then this is the love of my life, and I haven't stopped loving this girl since I was 6. Like, those are different things. And so, to me, sometimes it's okay for you to have for you to not have very many, for you to not have very many tasks for you to do, for you to not have a slew of important tasks. But if the most important thing for Iris to do is make sure that Barry is where he needs to be to go out and save Central City, I respect that. I appreciate that as a character for her. That's obviously going to keep her out of my top five, probably top 10 support characters.
Forever.
But I think we have to have an appreciation like that. We spent a lot of time on Iris. Let's talk about Caitlyn. So I've
Ooh.
always liked Caitlyn a lot. I think Caitlyn is really the exact opposite of Iris in the respect that you were talking about, Jay. She always has something to bring to every single episode, to every single mission,
Every
every
episode.
single episode, every single mission, every single connection that she makes with other characters and with just the different people all around Central City. And whenever it seems like she brings something important to the team, it never seems forced. It seems a well placed aspect of the character that you would expect to be present in that character because you know her education, you know her experiences, you know what she's been through. And so when they bring her about to solve a particular problem, it always makes sense. My only issue with what they keep doing with this character is instead of allowing her to just be that, they keep trying to pair her off with whoever the off guy is for that particular season, whether it be Jay Garrett, quote unquote, slash Zoom, or Ronnie, or
Ronnie.
that other guy in season
Julian.
3. Yes. And it's just
Yeah.
like, Caitlyn does not need that at all. Just
Well,
at
well,
all.
well. I season 3 is showing me a lot about Caitlyn. Because I was thinking about this because you said that the other day, and then I just looked at her relationship with her mother, and it kind of pieces together. The way they do it is wrong, but she has a lack of emotional responses in her life,
Yeah.
and her mother's shut down.
Yeah.
And they finally had like a mother-daughter moment because she's like, I don't know what's going on, but it looks like she's about to become Killer Frost, and I'm gonna be super happy if she does. But if you look at that at the character and they give us that little piece of information about her, it's like, okay, it makes sense. She looks for these relationships with men because her father died early when she was a child, and her mother was emotionally distant to her, so she hasn't been satisfied at all, whether romantically or emotionally, in her adult and younger life. But the way they go about trying to satisfy it is kind of like, I don't want to say lazy, but just kind of
It is
cheesy.
pretty lazy
You know?
though because you can make those connections in hindsight, but there's nothing else about the character that is narratively revealed that makes you think those things. Like you're able to piece that together because this is what happened with, her mom. This is what happened with her dad. But they don't give her enough time dealing with the team or dealing with moments on her own where you get the feeling of, oh, you know what? Because of this, it's clear that this is a result of her not having her dad in her life or her not having her mom in her life. It doesn't show much on screen that she suffers from not having those entities in her life the way that they otherwise would have been. And so I think if they did that more, as opposed to like just throwing her into these relationships all willy nilly and literally blindly, they're just blindly throwing her into relationships with the first available man that walks anywhere near Team Flash. That's the part that I have the problem with.
I could understand that.
Well, let's see. We are pushing about 35 minutes, so maybe we have time to talk about one or two really good support characters that y'all want to discuss, and then we can go ahead and start closing this out.
Cisco Ramon.
I love Cisco.
Man, I'm hurting for Cisco right now. Because now we're in a universe. This is season 3, so hopefully no one out there's been spoiled by this. We're in a universe where his brother died.
Yeah.
And he's watching him learn how to deal with that is rough. It's really rough.
And I think a good part of that is them writing in that he didn't like his brother, you know? Like
Yeah,
he didn't like his brother
at
at
all.
first.
But he loved
And
him.
now he has to learn, okay, you didn't appreciate your brother. Now your brother's gone. What's up? And seeing how that affected him is a lot of growth for the character, but unfortunately as the viewer, you're literally watching them take a really big chunk of Cisco away that seems like it may never return. You know, like his
Yeah,
overall, like the joy that you get from
his
that.
demeanor,
Yes,
he
all of
doesn't
that.
have it at all
He
anymore.
that
It's gone,
yeah, yeah. And it
and that's
sucks.
rough.
It
Because
hurts.
that's what I gravitate
Yeah.
to, and
Yeah.
I'm like, what am I gonna see from this? Where am I supposed to go for the light of Team Flash? Because it ain't coming. Well, you know what? We can always rely on Joe.
Yeah.
But I don't know. Batman, do you have any thoughts about this?
Yeah, yeah, I love Cisco. He's a great character. He always he's goofy. You know, he's funny. He's always bringing up like pop references, like
Mm-hmm.
movie references and stuff, and uh, the villain names are really cool. And he's just an overall cool character. His
Top.
growth from season one, I'm not gonna spoil, but to season six is great. I've loved every second of his character. Anytime he's on screen, it's it's a treat, you know. It's great. So yeah, he's a great character.
Yeah. I
Now,
love Cisco.
I did mention Cisco, but for all those people who are watching the video, I want you to look in your heart of hearts, your true heart of hearts. I need you to ask this question: should John Diggle be a Green Lantern? Because right now I'm watching Arrow and I'm thinking this man really should be Green Lantern. So if you believe John Diggle should be Green Lantern, drop a comment in the bottom section. We need to get this man in a super suit because he embodies everything of the Green Lantern. All right, I've gotten off my soapbox.
Is that your Diggle rant that you wanted to do for this video?
Yes, yes,
Okay.
there will be a Diggle rant anytime we talk about side supporting characters. I just believe the more I look at him, the more I see a Green Lantern. Except for season four when he killed his
I
brother, that
really
was
love
rough.
John as a character. I really do. Um, he kind of gets some of the Cisco treatment. Like the
Yeah,
harder his life gets, the less Diggle he gets. But also at
yeah.
the same time, it's kind of the more Diggle he gets as well. You know, it's a double edged sword. But you know, I'm excited to continue to see that character. I'm really excited to continue to see that character. Any last minute characters that you wanted to bring up Batman and just talk about briefly, or do y'all think we've covered everybody? Or
Um, so I definitely there's some characters I want to bring up when Jay is caught up.
oh, you
Um,
know what? That's right.
at
We'll
least
probably
into Arrow season five or
okay.
six,
Ooh,
Yeah.
because there are some very big characters that I want to dive into.
Okay.
I'm excited for this
Some
now.
honorable mentions that you didn't bring up, Jay, that I expected you to bring up. Captain Cold. Um,
I didn't. We didn't have time. I want to save him for a main character because come on now,
okay.
Leonard Snart is Snart.
Okay, that's fine. Mick Rory. Um, Mick Rory really gets his shine more so in Legends than he does in the Flash. He's a solid character.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see who else. Nissa. Nissa's a great.
Is
Oh,
that
oh, oh. The other person in my top five is Anatoly Kesnet. I
Ooh.
love Anatoly. Like his personality, his calmness, his coolness, his him not being necessarily a physically imposing or intimidating character, yet his ability to be powerful and impactful in many ways. You'll see more Anatoly at like throughout the season, but I love that brotherhood that him and Oliver have, and it's so huge. And this is not necessarily a spoiler, but Anatoly and Oliver have not always been on the same page. But their sheer respect for each other, for what they went through on Lian Yu, just really amplifies that connection, and you can see that they are that that no matter what's going on, they hold back in a sense how they deal with each other, whereas if it was anybody else it would be a whole lot more serious in terms of the outcome. I'd say he's definitely like top 3 or 4 on my list of support characters. I love Anatoly.
Ooh, last minute mention Curtis from Arrow.
I don't like Curtis. He's not my top.
He proves his usefulness,
I don't like
and
him.
he's funny.
He's not in my
Why?
he's not in my top 10. He's annoying.
He's funny. He's smart. He handles his business. There's nothing to not like about Curtis.
I don't like him. I don't like Curtis.
You just don't like great people.
I I don't know
Wait,
what it is about Curtis, but he I
He annoys you because he's like me, isn't it? Is that what it is?
yeah, he both y'all annoy me.
We loud. We make awkward comments out loud. It's okay. And we say funny stuff all the time. It's okay. And he's an IT nerd. I'm an IT
To be
nerd. This
100%
is what I'm
honest with you, I
saying.
think my biggest issue with him as a character is the character that he represents from like comic book lore and some of the animated series and stuff. It's just a totally different character. And sometimes I wish that they would have just made
Oh.
an original character for Curtis and maybe named him something else. But
Mm,
they took a character that is otherwise like he's just not like that. He and it's not even close. Don't get me wrong,
okay.
they kind of did the same thing with Oliver, but it just worked. I don't think it quite works with Curtis, and so that's kind of my problem. So he's out of my top 10.
I understand. But that was like one of the good sides to season 4. I will say the only like really good thing that came out of season 4 of Arrow was that I'm excited for the mystical side of the Arrowverse. Like I'm excited for shows like Constantine. I'm excited for Lucifer because it was done poorly for Arrowverse, but I know if they had a show that was focused on it, like John Constantine, I would be excited and wanting to watch it.
That's a good point.
So that's like one of the plus.
That's a good
That and
point.
Curtis. I like Curtis.
Cool. Any last second thing, Batman? I think I cut you off a couple of minutes ago.
no, that's it.
All right, cool. Well, if there's any side characters of the overall Arrowverse, or if we're going to call this the DC connected universe, feel free to bring up characters from Titans or Doom Patrol, and leave those in the comment section. Of course, as Jay continues to get caught up on some of the later seasons, we'll be revisiting topics like this in the future. But until then, if you like the video, like it. If you think someone else might like it, share it. And if you want to see more, we really hope that you will subscribe. We'll see y'all later.
Diggle for Green Lantern. Diggle for Green